a living world. Now, if we see, we are having everything living around us. So let's see whether you can recognize which one is living or not living. So when we talk about living world, we are having all these things. Now, if we see this flower, we have studied in lower classes that we will call it living. This is a chameleon. Yes, we will definitely call it living. This is a book. I don't think we will call it living, although books are really precious to us. Crab, we will call living. Boulder, we will call non-living. Human, we will call living. Fish, we will call living. Fire, we will not call, definitely it's non-living. Grasshopper is living. Robot, it can move, it can talk like us, but still we will call it non-living. Squirrel is living. This bat, no, very precious to us, but no, still it's non-living. A grapevine, yes, it's living. Teddy bear, no, it's non-living, even though it has been our friends. And then we are having sea anemone, which is living. Earthworm, living. Okay. Now, what basically makes the difference between the living and non-living? How we can differentiate between living and non-living? So let's see, there are certain properties which creates a major difference between living and non-living. First is growth. We all grow. We were a baby, then we grow into a child, then we grow into a teenage adult, and we are still growing. Okay, so growth is a property of a living being. If I take this pen, I will not see that it was a baby, then it is growing into a child, then an adult. So the pen is not growing, and we can say, yes, this pen is non-living because it is not capable of growth. But is it that? First, let us define what is growth, because in science we need to define what is the proper definition, understanding of each term. So what is basically growth? Growth is increase in mass, increase in number. Okay. Now, if we are having a very small plant and it grows into a big tree, then yes, we are seeing here increase in mass. Okay. And if we see in the initial stage, it was having one stem with few leaves, but when we see later on, it has grown into a big tree with lots of branches and lots of leaves. So increase in number is also happening, increase in mass is also happening, and that we can take it as growth. Like here, if you see, more leaves, more branches, growth is taking place. Okay, so that is growth. If we see now another one, increase in number sometimes can result into increase in mass also. More branches, more leaves resulted into a very big tree, so increase in mass. Another example, if I show you here, these are the bacteria which are dividing, and you can see few bacteria to more and more thousands and thousands of bacteria, which resulted in increase in number into increase in mass. Okay, so growth can be either increase in mass or increase in number, or it can be increase in number relating to increase in mass. Okay, so this type of growth which happens internally is known as intussusception. Internal growth. In a plant, the cells are dividing, they are multiplying, they are differentiating into the branches, into the leaves and everything. So internally the growth is happening. It is not like that some new leaves are coming from outside and attaching to the plant. So internally the growth is happening. In case of bacteria also, the cells are dividing and forming, increasing. Okay, but here is a problem. In case of bacteria, the bacteria are dividing. So it is a type of reproduction also, where growth and reproduction is getting confusing. Okay, let's see more objects, whether we can see they are exhibiting growth or not. This is the picture of a Mount Everest. Okay. And the scientists say that every year the Mount Everest grows by 3 centimeters. It's growing by 3 centimeters. This means it's exhibiting growth. Is it a living thing? We cannot call it a living thing because we know mountain is not living, but it is exhibiting one of the property of living organism, that is growth. Let's see what type of growth is taking place, whether it is increase in mass, increase in number. Now, increase in number, we will not say it is possible because we do not see 2-3 Mount Everest every year, or we do not see any branches of Mount Everest growing. So that is not possible. But yes, increase in mass is happening, and that is approximately up to 3 centimeter. Okay. So in case of Mount Everest, the growth is happening due to maybe deposition of more soil, dust, snow, precipitation, whatever it is, means outside sources are responsible for the growth. It is not like internally the Mount Everest is growing. So external growth, the growth which is taking place due to deposition of substances from the outside, is known as accretion. The growth which takes place internally due to the growth of the cell internally is known as intussusception. Okay, so let's come back to the bacteria again. Bacteria is exhibiting increase in mass, which is resulting into increase in which is due to increase in number, and that is intussusception, which is exhibited only by living organisms. But here, growth is synonymous with reproduction. In reproduction, a cell divides into two. In growth, in bacteria, cell is dividing into two. So that is a little confusing term here. We cannot apply for all organisms. And growth is being exhibited by living and non-living, but we have to state the conditions. Okay, so growth we cannot take as a definite property of living organism. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Reproduction. You have already studied reproduction in lower classes. What is basically reproduction? It is divided into two words, re plus production. Re means again, and production means producing something, giving birth to something. So a lion producing a lion is reproduction. A giraffe producing a giraffe is reproduction. Okay. Now this reproduction can be divided into two main, that is the sexual one, asexual one. Sexual one, in which one living organism is not capable of giving birth. There are two living organisms required for giving birth. Two parents are required. So in sexual one, basically gametes are produced. What are gametes? Special reproductive cells. Gametes are special reproductive cells. So these gametes are produced. They will fuse together, one from the male, one from the female. They will fuse together to form a zygote. That is a single cell. And that zygote will give rise to a new organism. So that is sexual reproduction. Asexual mode of reproduction is the one in which only one parent is involved. A single bacterial cell is dividing to form two daughter cells. So this is only one parent is involved. There is no gamete formation. There is no zygote formation. That is asexual mode of reproduction. Okay, now if we see, you remember this is a hydra. Hydra reproduces by budding. One hydra is giving rise to a daughter hydra, so one parent is involved, so that is an asexual mode of reproduction. This also you must be remembering, this is regeneration. In regeneration, if we have accidentally the planaria got cut, each cut part will give rise to a new organism, that is regeneration. Again, one organism is giving rise to the daughter planaria. So this is regeneration. Then we are having again our own bacteria. Okay, one bacterial daughter cell divides into two, two into four, and like that, and they form the whole colony. So this is an example of binary fission. That is also an asexual mode of reproduction. Okay. Now, if we see sexual one, like I told you, gametes are produced, reproductive cells are produced. So this is a male reproductive gamete, sperm cell. This is an egg. They both will fuse together to form a zygote. Zygote will give rise to a new organism. So that is sexual mode of reproduction. Okay. Now the question arises, yes, reproduction is observed in all living organisms. Again, let's come back to this pen. This pen is not going to show reproduction. This means if I have kept this pen in my almirah, does not mean tomorrow I will see two versions of this one. This is not possible. So this pen is not going to give rise to more pens. So this means it cannot reproduce. And yes, reproduction is exhibited only by living organisms, but there is a problem. Look at this mule, which is here. Mules are sterile organisms. Mules are hybrids. They cannot reproduce. So if we say reproduction is only exhibited by living organisms, can I say this mule is non-living? No, we all know it is a living organism, but it is not exhibiting reproduction. Then if we take another example, these are worker bees. And we all know that worker bees do not have the capability to reproduce. Only queen bee and the drone bees, that is the male bees, have the capability to reproduce. So this means, can we call these worker bees as non-living? No, we cannot. These are living, these are doing every function, every reproductive function, but except reproduction. Then if we take example of infertile couples, those humans who are not able to reproduce, whatever is the cause, can we call them non-living? No, we cannot. So reproduction is not a definitive criteria of living organism. Okay, so what we have seen till now, growth and reproduction cannot be considered definitive criteria of living organism, because growth is exhibited by non-living things also in certain cases. Second, reproduction is exhibited only by living organisms, but certain living organisms do not reproduce. So here there is a twist. We cannot call them non-living. Okay, let's see the next criteria. Metabolism. Now, metabolism is sum total of all chemical reactions in our body. We are eating the food breaks down, the food is assimilated in our body. We require energy, our body will break down the glucose to produce energy. If we don't need energy, our body will convert that glucose into glycogen. So whatever chemical reactions that are taking place in our body are parts of metabolism. Metabolism is of two types. It is anabolic and catabolic. Catabolic, where breakdown is happening. Okay, here breakdown happens. Anabolic, where synthesis happens. Like glycogen is stored in our liver. When we need energy, our body will break down glycogen into glucose. Glucose will be broken down to release energy. So that is a catabolic process. All catabolic process produce energy. So these processes are also known as exothermic reactions because they are producing energy. Anabolic process, we don't need energy that much. What our body will do, we have eaten food, it has been converted into glucose, the body will store it in the form of glycogen. So glucose is being converted back into glycogen using some energy. So these processes which require energy to occur, they are known as endothermic reactions. Okay. Now, all living organisms will exhibit this, whether it is a mule or a worker bee or an infertile couple, even an earthworm, sea anemone, any living organism on this earth, you say, they will all exhibit metabolic activities. Non-living things cannot exhibit these metabolic activities. Okay. So can we say metabolism is an criteria for living organism? Okay, till now we can say because it is exhibited only by living organisms. Let's see this one. This is a test tube. Okay, in this test tube we are having the salivary amylase. If you remember class 10, salivary amylase, we use it to digest starch. So we have added some starch also, so that salivary amylase can digest that starch. Okay. And we have added some iodine. Iodine is the test. We add iodine to see if starch is present. If starch is present, it will give blue-black color. So we have added iodine also. This has been done in both the test tubes. This is also having the starch. And this is also having iodine. The only difference is that one test tube is having the salivary amylase, it is with salivary amylase. Another one is without salivary amylase. Okay. What has happened here? Starch has been added, salivary amylase has been added, and it has digested the starch. So when we added iodine to it, there was no reaction because there was starch absent in this test tube. Okay. While if you see here we have added the starch. Here we have added iodine. Iodine is giving the blue-black color because starch is present here. Okay. So we are getting the blue-black color. So what does this show? That the salivary amylase is capable of breaking down starch even outside the living organism. Our living reaction is taking place inside this. So can we call this test tube A as a living organism? No. Test tube is not the living organism. Test tube is not deciding when the salivary amylase is being released in the body or to how much extent it has to be broken down. We have added starch, we have added salivary amylase. Salivary amylase will do its work. So salivary amylase is the living component. Okay, we have just used test tube as a vessel to do this reaction. And this reaction naturally happens only in living organisms. Here too, we are taking out the salivary amylase by spitting in a test tube, and then we concentrate it, dilute it, and then we add it in the test tube, and then we proceed with the reaction. But in our body, it is happening like that only. You see a delicious food item, you start salivating, so you don't require any kind of thing. Okay, so living reactions, that is metabolic reactions, they take place in living organisms only. Okay, and that is why metabolism is considered as a definite property of living organisms. Okay, growth cannot be considered growth because growth is a ambiguous definition. It is being exhibited by living, it is being exhibited by non-living also. Reproduction we cannot consider because it is being exhibited by most of the living, but some of the living are not showing reproduction. Metabolism is exhibited by all living organism on this earth. So this is a definite property of living. Okay, that's it for today. We will continue rest tomorrow.